On Thanksgiving night, my wife asked me to step out of the family photo. Not because I was sick, not because I was crying, because my work jacket had my name stitched over the pocket, and she said it made the picture look too blue-collar. My son had just announced he had closed a $12 million client account. The whole table clapped. My wife cried. My daughter smiled politely from the far end of the table beside the kids, where they had seated her because single people are easier to move around. Then, 2 days later, when I told my family I needed $4,800 to schedule surgery, my son looked at me over a glass of $200 bourbon and said, "Dad, I can't keep investing in your failures." And my wife, the woman I had been married to for 33 years, didn't defend me. She didn't even blink. She just said, "Ask Claire. She's a teacher. She's used to living cheap." That was the moment I realized my family did not see me as a husband, or a father, or a man who had spent his whole life holding them up. They saw me as a failed investment. My name is Raymond Carter. I was 59 years old when I learned that the people who call you family are not always the people who show up when you have nothing left to give them. I lived in a small brick house outside Murfreesboro, Tennessee, on a street where the lawns were uneven. The porch lights flickered, and everyone knew which truck belonged to which house. My place had white shutters that needed repainting a cracked walkway I kept meaning to fix, and a back fence leaning just enough to remind me every morning that a man can spend his whole life saying, "I'll get to it next weekend," and one day realize there may not be as many next weekends left as he thought. I wasn't always the man with overdue bills on the kitchen table. That is important, because people love to judge a man by the season they find him in. They see you after the fall and assume you must have always been on the ground. 15 years earlier, I owned a small but respectable grading and site prep company called Carter Land Works. Nothing fancy. We cleared lots, leveled ground, prepared foundations, dug drainage trenches, helped developers turn raw land into neighborhoods with names like Willow Creek and Magnolia Ridge. I started with one used skid steer, one truck, and knees that didn't ache when it rained. By the time my kids were teenagers, I had 6 employees, 3 machines, steady contracts, and enough confidence to believe I understood risk. That was my mistake, not the risk, the confidence. I bought 42 acres of rough land outside Spring Hill. Back then, everybody laughed at it. Too rocky, too far out, too close to an old industrial dumping site nobody wanted to talk about. But I had studied the county plans. I had seen the whispers about a future highway connector. I had walked that land in work boots and looked past the weeds, the gullies, the rusted fence posts, and the old concrete drainage culverts. I saw what it could become: a small commercial strip, townhomes, maybe a medical office complex, something steady enough to retire on. My wife Patricia loved the idea when people at church called me smart. She loved saying Ray has an eye for land. She loved the way people looked at her differently when they thought we were moving up. She loved being married to a man with plans. Then the tests came back. The old dumping site next door had leaked chemicals into the groundwater years before anyone officially admitted it. My land got tangled up in environmental restrictions, cleanup delays, county reviews, and more letters with seals on them than I had ever wanted to see. Overnight, I owned 42 acres I could not build on, sell, borrow against, or explain to a bank without watching the loan officer's face change. Contracts dried up, credit tightened. A developer I trusted backed out of a handshake deal and never returned my calls. 2 machines were repossessed. Then the business folded. I did not lose everything in one dramatic explosion. I lost it the way men often lose things. Slowly, quietly. One payment missed. One line of credit frozen. One old friend no longer answering. One dinner where your wife stops bragging and starts correcting you in front of people. Patricia never forgave me for becoming ordinary. She did not say it that way. She said she was tired. She said she wanted stability. She said she had spent enough years standing by my decisions. But what she meant was that she had enjoyed being proud of me, and when pride became inconvenient, she treated it like something I had stolen from her. Our son Brandon followed her lead. Brandon was 32, handsome, polished, and allergic to humility. He worked in commercial investment sales in Nashville. He wore fitted suits, expensive watches, and cologne that arrived in a room before he had. He spoke in numbers, accounts, commissions, growth, leverage, market position. He had the kind of confidence that made strangers mistake him for successful before checking whether he had actually done anything by himself. Patricia adored him, always had. Even when he was little, Brandon knew how to perform being impressive. Straight teeth after braces I paid for with overtime, baseball camps, private tutoring, a used BMW for college, because Patricia said showing up in something decent mattered for internships. He had a way of making every gift feel like it was part of his destiny. When Brandon succeeded, it was because he was brilliant. When Brandon failed, it was because other people did not understand his potential. When Brandon needed money, it was an investment. When I needed money, it was a burden. Our daughter Claire was different. Claire was 27 and taught 3rd grade at a public elementary school in Franklin. She lived in a small apartment with thin walls, thrift store furniture, and a balcony where she grew basil in plastic pots. She drove a 12-year-old Honda Civic with one window that made a grinding sound if you tried to roll it down. She made her own coffee, packed her own lunches, paid her bills on time, never asked for anything unless the situation was truly impossible. Patricia called her low maintenance, which sounds like a compliment, until you realize people use it to justify neglecting you. Claire had my stubbornness and her grandmother's heart. She remembered things. She remembered that I liked black coffee, but hated burnt coffee. She remembered that when I was stressed, I cleaned tools in the garage, even if they were already clean. She remembered the anniversary of my father's death, even when Patricia forgot. She was not flashy. She did not know how to make a room orbit around her. She showed up quietly carrying soup or Tylenol or a pack of undershirts because she noticed mine had holes in them. That was Claire. She loved in practical ways nobody clapped for. The year everything changed, Thanksgiving was at Brandon's new house in Brentwood. New house is generous. It was really a showpiece. White brick, black windows, open kitchen, marble island, perfect pantry with matching glass jars full of food I doubted anyone ever cooked. Patricia had acted as if Brandon built the place with his bare hands, when the truth was I'd helped him with the down payment 2 years earlier, back when he said it was temporary positioning, and promised I would be paid back after his next big commission. That commission came and went. So did the next one. So did the one after that. The repayment never did. I did not chase him. I told myself fathers don't keep score, but somewhere deep down, I had started keeping a different kind of record. Not dollars, moments. The way Brandon stopped calling unless he needed something. The way Patricia lit up when his name appeared on her phone. The way Claire got seated wherever there was room while Brandon's girlfriend Lacey got treated like visiting royalty because she came from a family with lake property and a mother who used the word summer as a verb. That Thanksgiving, Patricia spent 3 days preparing like we were attending a royal wedding instead of dinner at our son's house. She ironed my shirt twice, then told me not to wear it because it looked too warehouse. I had been working as a forklift supervisor at a building supply distribution center for almost 10 years by then. It was honest work, hard work, work that left dust under your nails and soreness in your back. Patricia spoke about it like it was a contagious condition. "Can you please wear the navy sweater Brandon bought you?" she asked that morning, standing in our bedroom doorway. I looked at the sweater folded on the chair. It was expensive, soft, too tight around my shoulders. I was going to wear my jacket, the one with Carter Supply stitched on it. It's clean. Raymond. She only used my full name when she wanted me to feel small. This is Brandon's first real Thanksgiving hosting. There will be important people there. I stared at her. Important people. Lacey's parents. A couple from his office. His managing partner might stop by. And I'm what decoration that needs updating. She sighed. That sigh had become the soundtrack of our marriage. Don't be difficult. I just want one nice family photo. One nice family photo. Patricia's religion. Not truth. Not kindness. Not loyalty. A photo. Something she could post online to prove her life had not become smaller than she had planned. Claire arrived at our house before we left, carrying a pecan pie and wearing a green dress with a denim jacket. You look beautiful, I said. She smiled. Thanks, Dad. Mom told me not to wear boots, so naturally I wore boots. I laughed. Patricia did not. Claire, those boots are scuffed. They're comfortable. This is why I worry about you. Claire's smile faded just a little. I'm a school teacher, Mom, not a senator's wife. You could try wanting more. Claire looked at me briefly. That old look. The one that said, "Don't worry, Dad. I'm used to it." That was the problem. She was used to it. We drove to Brandon's house in separate cars because Claire said she might need to leave early to grade spelling tests. Patricia called that an excuse. I called it self-preservation. When we pulled up to Brandon Street, the driveways were full of SUVs and shiny sedans. His house glowed through the windows. Warm lights, tall wreath, pumpkins perfectly arranged. A welcome mat that said, "Gather gratefully." I remember thinking that people put the words they struggle with most on their decor. Inside the house smelled like catered turkey and expensive candles. Not home-cooked Thanksgiving. Catered Thanksgiving. There is a difference. Catered food smells good. Home food smells like somebody loved you enough to get tired. Brandon greeted Patricia first. "Mom," he said, hugging her like he had just returned from war instead of moving 30 minutes away. She touched his face. My handsome boy. Then he turned to me. "Dad." One syllable. A nod. Not rude enough to call out. Not warm enough to count. Then Lacey swept in with a glass of champagne and kissed Patricia on both cheeks. She hugged Claire like they were acquaintances at a charity event. "Oh, Claire," she said, looking down at the pie. "You brought something homemade." "That's sweet." Sweet. Not useful. Not thoughtful. Sweet. Claire just smiled. That's what Thanksgiving is for. Brandon's dining table had place cards. I noticed because Patricia noticed. She loved place cards. Brandon and Lacey at the head. Lacey's parents beside them. His managing partner and wife near the center. Patricia next to Brandon. Me halfway down the table near a man from Brandon's office who spent 20 minutes explaining cryptocurrency to me as if I had wandered in from 1978. Claire was at the far end beside two teenagers and a child who kept dropping rolls on the floor. When Claire saw her seat, she smiled like it was funny, but I saw her eyes. I stood. "Claire can sit here. I'll switch." Patricia gave me a warning look from across the table. Claire shook her head slightly. "It's okay, Dad." That phrase again. It's okay. Children who say that too often are usually the ones who learned early that saying otherwise changes nothing. Dinner started with Brandon tapping his knife against a glass. "I just want to say how grateful I am," he said. His voice had that public polish, the one he used when he wanted to impress strangers. This year has been huge. Career-wise, relationship-wise, life-wise. I just closed the Lockwood account. Lacey clapped first. Patricia gasped. "The big one, 12 million under management." Brandon said, pretending to be humble and failing. "Not bad for a kid from Murfreesboro." Everyone applauded. Patricia cried. Lacey's father nodded with approval. Someone said, "That's incredible." I clapped too. I meant it. I had never wanted my son to fail. That is what people like Brandon never understand. Disappointment is not jealousy. A father can be proud and wounded at the same time. Claire raised her glass and said, "Congratulations, Brandon." He smiled at her. "Thanks, sis." I know numbers like that sound insane on a teacher's salary. The table laughed. Not loudly, politely. That made it worse. Claire's face did not change. Mine did. Brandon saw it. His smile sharpened. "Relax, Dad, I'm kidding." People love saying that after they check whether their cruelty landed. Later after dinner, Patricia insisted on the family photo. We stood by the fireplace under a garland of magnolia leaves and gold ribbon. Lacey's mother arranged everyone because apparently she had an eye for composition. Brandon and Lacey in the center, Patricia beside Brandon. Lacey's parents close, Claire near the edge, me next to Claire. Just before the timer started, Patricia looked at my jacket. I had put it back on because the house was cold and my chest had been a-hooling all week. The jacket had Carter Supply embroidered over the pocket. Patricia stepped toward me, smiling for everyone else. "Ray," she whispered, "take that off. I'm cold. It looks bad. It's my work jacket." "Exactly." Claire heard. Her face flushed. I did not move. Patricia's smile tightened. "Please don't ruin this." Ruin this. My standing in a family photo wearing proof that I worked for a living was apparently a threat to the brand. I took the jacket off. Claire looked like she wanted to say something. I shook my head. "Not here. That was my mistake." I had been saying not here for years. Not at Thanksgiving. Not in public. Not when Patricia was tired. Not when Brandon was celebrating. Not when Claire was already hurt. Not here. Becomes nowhere. If you say it long enough. The photo posted an hour later. Patricia captioned it. "So proud of the life our son is building. Blessed to celebrate ambition, family, and new beginnings. Our son. Not our children. Not family. Our son." Claire liked the post. I knew she did it, so Patricia would not call her bitter. I did not like it. 2 days after Thanksgiving, I was sitting in my truck outside St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital, holding a folder and trying to remember how to breathe normally. The cough had started weeks earlier, then the fatigue, then the tightness in my chest I kept blaming on work. Dust age Tennessee, heat anything, except fear. Dr. Patel did not waste words. That was one reason I trusted him. "Raymond," he said, looking at me over his glasses. "The mass is early. That is good, but it needs to come out quickly. We're talking weeks, not months." He said operable. He said favorable odds. He said clean margins were the goal. Then a woman from billing came in with a clipboard and the apologetic face of someone about to turn medicine into math. My insurance would cover most of it. Most. But because of the surgical technique and a gap in my policy, they needed $4,800 before scheduling the operating room. I stared at the number, not because it was large in the abstract. I had once signed checks bigger than that without sweating. But life has a way of making former numbers become impossible numbers. My credit was still scarred from the land collapse. Our savings were thin. Patricia's accounts were separate, because 5 years earlier, when the old land debt looked like it might swallow everything she had insisted we divide financial responsibility for protection. Her protection, not mine. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat. I sat in the driveway for 15 minutes. Then I went inside. Patricia was in the kitchen scrolling through Brandon's Thanksgiving photos on her phone. She had cropped one of them, so I was barely visible. I told her what Dr. Patel said. I told her about the surgery. I told her about the $4,800. She listened without touching me. That was what I remember most. Her hand stayed on her coffee mug. When I finished, she said, "We don't have that kind of money. Just sitting around." "I know. Can the hospital do payments?" "Not before scheduling," she sighed. "You need to call Brandon." "I'm going to." She hesitated, then said, "Don't make him feel guilty." I looked at her. I'm asking our son for help with surgery, Patricia. I'm not asking him to finance a fishing boat. He's under a lot of pressure right now. That Lockwood account is huge. He can't have family stress distracting him. Family stress. My lungs had become a scheduling inconvenience, but I called him. Of course I did. A father will walk back into humiliation if there is a chance his child might remember love. Brandon answered on the fourth ring, noise behind him. Glasses, laughter, restaurant music. Dad, can this be quick? We're at Bourbon Steak with Lacey's parents. I need to talk to you about something serious. He sighed. Okay. What's up? I told him. Massachusetts. Surgery. Deposit. $4,800. I kept my voice steady, because begging your son is hard enough without sounding like you know you are begging. There was a pause. For 1 second, I let hope make a fool of me. Then Brandon said, Dad, I don't know what you want me to say. I gripped the steering wheel, even though I was sitting at my kitchen table. I'm asking if you can help me cover it. I'll pay you back. From what? The question was quiet. Sharp. Excuse me. Dad, come on. From what you've been underwater for a decade. It's surgery, and I'm sorry. I am. But I have spent years trying to separate myself from the financial chaos you created. I stared at the wall. On it was a framed photo of Brandon at 18, grinning in his baseball uniform. I had paid for that uniform. The travel fees, the hotel rooms, the gas, the private coach, all of it. My bad land deal did not create this tumor, I said. No, but your pattern did. My pattern. Poor planning. Panic. Waiting until something is urgent, and then expecting family to rescue you. I almost laughed. The boy who had called me from college because he overdrew his account buying concert tickets was lecturing me about rescue. Brandon. His voice dropped. No, Dad. I need to be honest. I can't keep investing in your failures. There it was. Investing. Failures. His father's body turned into a bad asset. I see, I said. He exhaled, relieved. Maybe thinking the hard part was over. Ask the hospital for charity assistance or something. That's what those programs are for. Then, after a pause, softer but meaner, I have a reputation now. I can't be the guy whose dad keeps needing bailouts. The line went dead. I held the phone for a long time. Patricia was standing across the kitchen. She had heard enough. I said. He said no. Her face tightened, not with sympathy, with irritation. You shouldn't have called while he was out. I looked at her. Did you hear what I said? I heard you put him in an impossible position. I need surgery, and he has worked hard to build his life away from all this. All this. Me, the house, the debt, the work jacket, the father who had become bad for the photo. Then she said the sentence I will remember until I die. Ask Claire. She's a teacher. She's used to living cheap. For a moment, I could not move. There are insults that arrive like lightning, and then there are insults that arrive like a door closing. That one was a door. My wife had just told me to ask the child with the least, because the child with the most deserved protection from need. I went to bed early that night, not to sleep, to be away from her. 2 days later, Claire asked me to meet her at a diner off Highway 96. I had not told her yet. I planned not to. That was the last little piece of pride I had. But Claire had been reading me since she was a child. She arrived still wearing her school lanyard, her hair pulled back, dry erase marker on one finger, and worry all over her face. We ordered coffee. She looked at me over the menu. Dad, what? Don't do that. Do what? Pretend you're fine, because you think I can't handle the truth. The waitress came. Claire ordered grilled cheese and tomato soup, because she said she had spent the day teaching fractions and had no energy left for grown-up food. I ordered catfish I did not want. When the waitress left, Claire reached across the table. Tell me. So I did. Not all at once. The diagnosis, the surgery, the $4,800, Brandon saying no, Patricia telling me to ask her. I stopped before I could say the last part fully, but Claire understood. She always did. Her eyes filled, not with panic, with anger. quiet anger, the kind that has already decided what it is going to do. "Dad," she said, "stop talking." She reached into her canvas tote bag and pulled out an envelope. Then she turned her phone around. On the screen was a loan approval, not from a bank, a payday lender. My chest went cold. Number. Yes. Claire, number. There's $2,300 in the envelope. I sold the Civic yesterday. The diner sound disappeared. The clatter of plates, the low music, the waitress laughing near the register, all of it faded. You sold your car. She shrugged like it was nothing. It had a weird window anyway. Claire, I took the rest as a short-term loan. It's ugly interest, but I'll handle it. You will not. I already did. You need that car. I can take the bus to school for a while. You live 40 minutes from school. 46 if the bus is late. She smiled. A brave, stupid, beautiful smile. The kind daughters use when they are trying to make fathers feel less ashamed. I started crying before I knew it was happening. Right there in a vinyl booth across from my 27-year-old daughter, who made less in a year than Brandon spent pretending to be important. I cried like a child. Claire moved to my side of the booth and put her arm around me. "Dad," she whispered, "you're not a burden." That broke me worse, because I had been living for years in a house where every unpaid bill, every cough, every old failure, every quiet meal had taught me that I was. The surgery happened the following Thursday. Claire took the day off. Patricia did not. She said she had a prior commitment helping Brandon and Lacey choose fixtures for their powder room. Powder room. That is a phrase people use when a bathroom has become too rich for its own name. Claire sat beside my hospital bed at 5:30 in the morning, holding my hand, while the nurse put a cap over my hair. "You look like an egg," she said. An egg, a tired egg. I laughed. It hurt. She kissed my forehead. "You're going to be fine, old man. Bossy. Alive." She corrected. "You're going to be alive," and when I woke up there was pain. Heavy. Hot. Deep. But Dr. Patel came by later and said the words every patient wants to hear. We got it all. Clean margins. Good outlook. Follow-up needed but hope. Real hope. I was too tired to cry. Claire cried enough for both of us. I recovered in her apartment because Patricia said the stairs at our house would be too much, but made no offer to make the downstairs livable. Claire's apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a sagging couch, a kitchen table with 2 chairs, a balcony overlooking a parking lot, and a dumpster painted green. She taped her new bus schedule to the refrigerator, beside a drawing from one of her students that said, "Miss Carter is the best." Every morning I looked at that schedule. Route 32, 6:18 a.m. Transfer at Franklin Transit Center. Arrive 7:04 if on time. My daughter was waking before dawn riding a bus to teach children how to read because she sold her car so I could have surgery. Meanwhile, Brandon posted photos from a client dinner captioned, "Pressure is a privilege." I muted him. Not blocked. Not yet. Muted. There is a middle stage of grief where you are not ready to cut the rope, but you cannot keep letting it burn your hands. 16 days after surgery, a certified letter arrived at Claire's apartment. She was at school. I was on the couch with a blanket over my knees watching a morning game show I did not care about. The mail carrier knocked. Certified for Raymond Carter. I signed. 2 envelopes. One from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. One from a company called Cumberland Ridge Development. I knew what the first one was before I opened it. Or thought I did. Another update. Another delay. Another official way of saying nothing had changed on the 42 acres that ruined my life. I opened it anyway. The words did not make sense at first. Site status resolved. Restrictions lifted. No further state remediation required. Land cleared for transfer and development, subject to standard county approvals. I read it once, then again, then a third time slower. The land was free after 15 years of being frozen, shamed, taxed, and cursed. The land was free. I sat so still the game show audience on TVAV sounded obscene. Cheering, laughing, clapping. I opened the second envelope. Cumberland Ridge Development was assembling parcels for a mixed-use project near the new highway connector. Retail, medical offices, townhomes, greenway access. My 42 acres sat almost perfectly in the center of their plan. Their offer was not a feeler. It was formal. $14.6 million. Cash. 30-day close. I stared at the number. $14.6 million. 3 weeks earlier, my daughter had sold her car for my $4,800 surgery deposit. Now I was holding a letter that turned the worst failure of my life into more money than I had ever imagined seeing. I did not shout. I did not call Patricia. I did not call Brandon. I looked at Claire's bus schedule on the fridge, then at the student drawing. Miss Carter is the best, and something inside me became very quiet. Not numb, not angry. Clear. For 15 years, Patricia and Brandon had treated that land like my original sin. They used it to explain every failure, every bill, every disappointment. 5 years earlier, when the debt looked like it might threaten our house, Brandon had found a lawyer through one of his connections and convinced Patricia to separate her finances from mine completely. He told her it was smart. He told her she had to protect herself from my bad decisions. Patricia signed papers that gave her the house, her retirement accounts, and her separate savings. I got the land, all of it, every liability, every tax bill, every future consequence. At the time, she called it protection. I called it abandonment, though not out loud. Now I needed to know whether abandonment had paperwork. I called Owen Brooks, my old accountant, and the only professional who had not disappeared when things went bad. Owen, I said, I need you to pull the property separation papers Patricia signed 5 years ago. He was quiet for a moment. Something happened. Maybe. Good maybe, or bad maybe. I looked at the offer letter. Depends who you ask. 2 hours later, Owen called back. His voice had changed. Ray. He said that agreement says exactly what I thought it said. Patricia waived any present or future claim to the Spring Hill parcel. Liability appreciation proceeds. Sale transfer, all of it. The land is yours. Separate. Clean. I closed my eyes. And Brandon, he signed as witness. Of course he did. The boy who thought he was locking me inside my failure had signed the paper that locked himself outside my recovery. I felt no joy at that. That may surprise you. I did not laugh. I did not pump my fist. I did not imagine their faces, at least not then. I looked again at Claire's bus schedule. I want to sell, I said. Quietly. Understood. And after debts are paid, I want a trust established for Claire. Owen went silent. All of it. All of it. Ray, that is a lot of money. She gave me more. He did not argue after that. The next 30 days moved strangely. I healed, signed papers, took short walks around Claire's apartment complex, watched her come home exhausted every afternoon with bus dust on her shoes, and a smile she put on for me before she even put her bag down. I did not tell her about the land yet, not because I wanted to hide it, because I wanted everything finished before hope could be interrupted. The sale closed on a Friday. The first thing I did was pay off Claire's loan. The second was buy her a new car, not flashy, safe, reliable, the kind with air conditioning that did not sound like it was begging for death. The third was purchase a small house 10 minutes from her school, a brick ranch with a fenced backyard, good light, and a spare room she could turn into a tutoring space. The trust owned it outright. No mortgage, no rent. No one could take it from her. Then I funded the tutoring program she had talked about for years, but never had the money to start. A place for kids whose parents worked late shifts and could not afford private help. Claire's dream was never to be rich. Her dream was to make sure children who fell behind did not get treated like they were lazy. That, to me, was worth more than any investment Brandon had ever bragged about. Patricia and Brandon found out before I told them. Not from me, from a commercial filing. Of course, Brandon found it. Men like Brandon check records when they smell money. They showed up at Claire's apartment on a Wednesday night. I was sitting at her kitchen table drinking tea while she graded spelling tests. A hard knock rattled the door. Claire looked up, expecting anyone. Number. The knock came again. Then Brandon's voice. Dad, open the door. Claire's face changed. Teacher face. The one that said somebody was about to lose recess. She opened the door. Brandon pushed in without being invited. Patricia followed wearing a cream blouse and the furious dignity of a woman who had rehearsed outrage in the car. Neither asked how I was feeling. Not one word about the surgery. Not one word about the scar still pulling when I stood too fast. Brandon pointed at me. You sold it. I looked at him. Good evening to you too. You sold the land. Patricia gasped. So it's true. Claire looked from them to me. What's true? Brandon laughed. Oh, he didn't tell you? Of course, St. Clair gets surprises while the rest of us get lied to. I stood carefully. My body was still healing, but my backbone seemed to have recovered ahead of schedule. The land was released. A developer made an offer. I accepted. How much Patricia demanded. I looked at her. Enough. Brandon slammed a folder onto Claire's table. $14.6 million. Claire's mouth fell open. She turned to me. Dad, I was going to tell you tonight. Brandon scoffed. Convenient. Patricia stepped forward. Raymond. That money belongs to this family. I looked around Claire's apartment. The thin walls, the bus schedule still on the fridge, the stack of student papers, the couch where I had slept with stitches in my chest. This is family, I said. Brandon's face went red. Don't do that sentimental nonsense. You hit a marital asset. Number. Yes, he snapped. You absolutely did. Mom is filing if she has to. Divorce fraud, whatever it takes. You do not get to sit on $14 million and pretend the people who suffered through your failure have no claim. Claire stood. Brandon, lower your voice. He turned on her. Stay out of grown-up business, Claire. I moved before I thought. Not fast, but enough. Do not speak to your sister that way in her own home. He laughed. Her own home. This apartment, Dad. She rents a box above a nail salon. Claire flinched. That was when the last piece of softness I had for my son stepped back. Maybe not forever, but far enough that I could finally see him clearly. I reached into the folder Owen had prepared for me and slid one document across the table. Read it. Patricia looked down. Her face changed before Brandon's did. Because she remembered. People always remember the paperwork that protects them. They just forget it can protect someone else, too. That's different, she said. No, it's exactly the same. Brandon grabbed the paper. His eyes moved quickly, then slower, then again. That agreement won't hold. It already has. You manipulated Mom. I actually laughed then. One short sound. Son, you arranged the meeting. His mouth tightened. You were drowning us in debt, and you made sure your mother never had to drown with me. You made sure that land, every tax bill, every liability, every risk, every future outcome belonged only to me. That was before anyone knew it would be worth anything. Yes, the room went quiet. Even Patricia had no answer for that. I looked at my wife. For 15 years, that land was my failure. You made sure of that. You called it my mess, my burden, my bad decision, my debt. You signed papers to keep it away from you. Her lips trembled, not with sorrow, with rage. And now that it is money, suddenly, it is family property. Brandon slammed his hand on the table. Claire jumped. I did not. I'll bury you in court, he said. I know people. No, I said. You know people who return your calls when they think you can make them money. That is not the same thing. He stepped toward me. You think Claire earned $14 million because she played nurse for a few weeks? Claire's face went pale. Before she could speak, I took out another paper, her bank statement. $12.48. I placed it beside the separation agreement. This was your sister's checking account 3 weeks after she paid for my surgery. Brandon looked away. No. Look at it. He didn't. I continued anyway. She sold her car. She took out a payday loan. She rode a bus before sunrise to teach third graders while I recovered on her couch. She checked my incision. She cooked bad soup and pretended it was good. She held my hand in a diner while I cried from shame you helped create. Patricia whispered, "Ray, stop." I looked at her. No. You have told the story of my failure for 15 years. Tonight, I'm telling the story of who showed up. Claire was crying now, silently. I hated that they made her cry in her own kitchen. I turned back to Brandon. You had a $12 million account and told me I was dead weight. His jaw worked. I said that in anger. No. You said it in comfort. You were comfortable enough to tell the truth. Patricia said, "You are punishing us." No. I am agreeing with you. She blinked. You wanted separation from my failure. You got it. You wanted Brandon protected from my need. You got that too. You wanted Claire to handle what the rest of you were too important to touch. I looked at Claire. She did. Then I said the sentence I had been carrying since the day the offer letter arrived. The money is in an irrevocable trust for Claire. Patricia sat down like her knees had given out. Brandon stared at me. All of it, after paying my debts and medical costs. Yes. You're insane. No. I'm finally accurate. Claire whispered, "Dad." I turned to her. You don't have to say anything. But all of it. Yes. I never wanted. I know. That's one reason it belongs to you. Brandon laughed bitterly. This is disgusting. She manipulated you while you were sick. Claire recoiled like he had slapped her. I stepped closer to him. Get out! He looked at me. Dad. No. Not Dad right now. Not after that. Get out of my daughter's home. Patricia stood slowly. You will regret this when you are old. Oh, and need family. I looked at her. I needed family 3 months ago. The sentence landed. For a moment, something almost human crossed her face. Then pride covered it. She gathered her purse. Brandon grabbed the papers off the table. You'll hear from my attorney. Tell him to read what you signed. He froze, then left. Patricia followed. No apology. No goodbye. No question about whether my chest still hurt. Just the sound of the door closing behind people who had come for money and found a mirror. Claire stood in the kitchen for a long time. Then she turned to me. You really bought me a car. I laughed. Out of everything, that was the part she could accept first. Yes. What kind? Safe. She narrowed her eyes through tears. Dad. And nice. How nice. Air conditioning nice. She covered her face and cried. I put my arm around her carefully. My ribs still hurt. She held on anyway. The house came next. I took her there the following Saturday. She thought we were going to lunch. When I pulled up in front of the brick ranch, she looked confused. Are we visiting someone? Number. The lawn was small but green. There was a dogwood tree near the front walk. A porch wide enough for 2 chairs. A bright red front door. Because when Owen asked about paint, I said Claire had always liked red doors. She stared at it. Dad. I handed her the key. She did not take it. She looked at my hand like I was offering her something impossible. The trust owns it. I said, no mortgage, no rent. Your name protected, no one can touch it. She shook her head. I can't accept a house. You accepted a bus schedule for me. That's different. Yes, I said, it was more. She cried on the porch before we even opened the door. Inside, the rooms were empty and full of sunlight. A kitchen with blue. A living room with hardwood floors. 2 bedrooms. A small back room perfect for tutoring. When Claire saw that room, she stopped. You remembered. I remember everything you think nobody hears. She walked into the room and stood in the middle. This could be the reading room. Yes, bookshelves there. Small tables here. Maybe after school groups. Yes. Kids who need help but can't pay. Yes. Her hands covered her mouth. For years, Claire had made herself small, because the family had assigned her the role of the one who did not need much. Watching her stand in that room, I realized how much people steal when they call someone low maintenance. They steal the right to want. That night, Patricia called 14 times. I did not answer. Brandon texted paragraphs, legal threats, moral outrage, accusations. Then finally, "I can't believe you'd choose Claire over your own son," I replied once. I did not choose Claire over my son. I chose the child who chose me when there was nothing to gain. He did not answer. A month later, Patricia filed for divorce, not because she wanted to leave me, because she believed it would scare me into negotiating. It did not. I did not fight to keep the house. I did not fight over furniture. I took my tools, my father's old watch, my work boots, and the recliner Claire hated, but secretly found comfortable. Patricia got the house she had protected from me. I got peace. Funny how property division sometimes tells the truth better than marriage vows. Brandon did try to challenge the trust. Briefly. His attorney sent one letter. Owen replied with the agreement Brandon himself had witnessed the transaction timeline and documentation of Claire's financial sacrifice. There was no second letter. The people who threaten court the loudest are often the first to disappear when paperwork stops flattering them. Patricia moved into a condo near Brandon 6 months later. She posted photos online with captions about new beginnings, resilience, and choosing positivity. She did not mention me. That was fine. For 15 years, she had used my failure as part of her identity. Now she would have to build one without it. Brandon's big $12 million account did not save him the way he thought it would. Accounts are not cash. Commission is not character. A year after the confrontation, I heard through a former neighbor that he had been pushed out of his firm after overpromising returns to a client he could not deliver. I did not celebrate. I did not help either. That may sound cold. It was not. It was respect. The same independence he demanded for himself, I finally gave him. Claire, on the other hand, built something beautiful. The reading room opened in January. She called it the Red Door Program. 3 afternoons a week at first. Then, kids came with backpacks missing assignments. Tired parents and eyes that lit up when someone patient sat beside them and said, "Let's try again." Claire hired 2 retired teachers, then a college student studying education, then a bilingual reading specialist. She paid them well. That mattered to her. No one who helps children should have to live on leftover gratitude, she said. I cried when she said that, not in front of her. In the truck, I am still a man after all, stubborn about ridiculous things. I moved into the small guest cottage behind Claire's house after she insisted. Not because she said I sold a car to keep you alive. You can survive living 30 feet from me. The cottage had 1 bedroom, a little kitchen, and a porch facing the dogwood tree. I fixed the porch railing myself, slowly, badly at first, then better. My hands still knew things my life had tried to make me forget. On the first Thanksgiving in Claire's house, she cooked, badly. I mean that with love. The turkey was dry. The mashed potatoes were somehow both lumpy and watery. The green beans were undercooked. The pie was store-bought. It was the best Thanksgiving meal of my life. We sat at her table with 2 retired teachers from the program, 1 neighbor, and a student's grandmother, who had nowhere else to go. No place cards, no perfect photo. No one asked me to remove my work jacket. In fact, Claire told me to wear it. Why? Because it's yours. Before dinner, she raised her glass of sweet tea. To showing up, she said. I looked across the table at my daughter, the one who had been placed at the far end, the one called cheap, low maintenance, easy, the one nobody bragged about, until there was a check attached to her name. To showing up, I said. After dinner, Patricia texted, just once, "Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're well." I looked at the message for a long time, then put the phone face down. Claire noticed. "Mom, yes, you okay?" I thought about that. Was I okay? I had lost a marriage, a son at least for now, a version of my life I had spent decades trying to defend. But I had gained something I did not know a man my age could still gain, a home where I did not feel like an apology. Yes, I said. I'm okay. She smiled. Good. Later that night, after everyone left, Claire and I sat on the porch under a blanket because the Tennessee air had finally turned cold. The dogwood tree was bare. A few kids' drawings were taped inside the reading room window. The red front door glowed under the porch light. Claire leaned her head on my shoulder. I still think you gave me too much, she said. I looked out at the quiet street. No, baby. For once, somebody gave you almost enough. She laughed softly, then cried, then laughed again. That is how healing often sounds. Confused, human, a little broken, a little free. I want to be clear about something. I did not give Claire the money because I hated Brandon. I did not give it to her to punish Patricia. I did not wake up one day rich and decide revenge would look good on me. I gave it to Claire because when I had nothing, she did not calculate whether I was worth saving. She did not ask what return she would get. She did not protect her reputation. She did not tell me to apply for assistance while she toasted herself at a steakhouse. She put cash on a diner table, sold the car she needed, rode a bus before sunrise, and made soup that tasted like wallpaper paste. Because love, real love, is not always pretty. Sometimes it is a payday loan. Sometimes it is a bus schedule. Sometimes it is a daughter pretending not to be scared, so her father can be. Patricia and Brandon wanted the reward without the relationship. They wanted the harvest after abandoning the field. They wanted to be family when the land became money. But strangers when my body needed saving. That is not family. That is access. And access can be revoked. For years I carried shame that did not entirely belong to me. I believed I had ruined everything. I believed my family's disappointment was proof that I had failed as a man. But failure is not always losing money. Sometimes failure is having money and no mercy. Sometimes failure is standing beside your mother while she tells your sick father to ask his schoolteacher daughter for help. Sometimes failure is sitting at a Thanksgiving table with $12 million under management and not enough decency to protect your own sister from a cruel joke. I was not the failure in that room. I was simply the only one who believed I was. Not anymore. These days, my life is smaller than the life Patricia used to want. A cottage, a red door, a daughter who checks if I took my medication, kids reading at little tables in the afternoons, a truck that starts most mornings, a scar across my chest, a dogwood tree that blooms when it feels like it. It is not glamorous. It does not photograph like Brandon's marble kitchen, but it is honest. And after years of living in a house where love depended on performance, honest feels like wealth. The land that ruined me saved me, but not because it made me rich. It saved me because it revealed everyone. My wife, my son, my daughter, and myself. I learned that the people who stand near you when you are winning are not always your family. Sometimes your real family is the one sitting across from you in a diner, sliding an envelope over a sticky table saying cars can be replaced. You can't. And if you are lucky enough to find that kind of love, you do not split your inheritance with people who only arrived after the check cleared. You protect it. You honor it. You build a red door around it and leave the light on for children who still believe trying again is worth something. So let me ask you this. If one child refused to help you when your life was on the line, and the other gave everything they had without asking for a dime back, would you still split the money equally because family is family? Or would you give everything to the one person who actually showed up? Tell me what you would have done.